Hi, Eddie Troxler. Another episode of jazzchat.org. That's the website, Jazz Chat. I'm sure there's other jazz chats, but I do have the jazzchat.org domain. So take a visit, or you can go to my, that'll link to the YouTube videos, so you can like them there too. I suppose it helps. Doing solo today. Anybody who wants to be a guest with me to come on, talk about, usually play through public domain jazz tunes, or it could be any type of song, or we could talk about most anything, somewhat keep it jazz related, or at least creativity related. Today I was going to do a song called Blue Skies, which is public domain, for the purposes of this station, and I suppose elsewhere too. We keep it public domain. If you're using other people's music, say you want to record it or something, you need to find out about the rights to it. Generally, it doesn't really matter unless you're making money off of it. Or also restaurants and bars generally pay ASCAP and BMI, so we're allowed to. But the purposes of these, we're using either public domain or original songs because we haven't researched the how much it would cost to use it. It's generally not too much if you do want to use a song for certain purposes. There's a couple of agencies. Harry Fox Agency. I know it sounds sketchy, but that's one of the ones where you can go buy the rights to a song and you can do however many copies, I suppose they're still around. So Blue Skies I brought today, which is 1926, written by Irving Berlin. I was doing a little bit of research. Apparently whatever musical it was written for, which I can't remember, it's the musical didn't do so great, and they had put this song in toward the last minute, so it was kind of maybe written in a hurry, but they had no idea, it was going to become such a played song, I suppose, because it's been covered by a lot of different people. There's one of the Benny Goodman Orchestra playing it. Of course, Sinatra. Ella Fitzgerald did a really good cover of it. And there's a lot of... There's some other songs that are somewhat similar to say, the same chord changes. There's a Monk song called In Want Bud. That's the same changes. I read that they were playing Blue Skies and Bud Powell or somebody walked in and they called it In Want Bud and just started soloing over it, and that was his improv on the song. But typical 32-bar tune, AABA, and it's really quite simple if you're looking for, if you're just starting to get into jazz and you want a, fairly straightforward one that's, it's pretty easy to memorize too. So sometimes it'll say A minor, A flat, C over G. That's what this one chart says, but really, what I think of is with Blue Skies, there's just a descending bass line on top of an A minor. And then we got what's called a 1-6-2-5, our old friend Do La. So, and that's pretty much the A section. Just that A minor with a descending bass. I was thinking today, if you're a guitar player, you always get requests for Stairway to Heaven. I don't know if they're being facetious or they really want to hear it, but it's the same thing. Similar, yeah. I won't won't play it because that is not public domain. So maybe, we could mix them up a little bit. But Blue Skies, so you have that part. It's a quite simple melody, pretty much stays in the key of C or A minor. If you don't know that, that's beginning theory. You need to learn those key signatures, or you can't really go much further as far as building chords and thinking about what notes do I need for a certain chord. But this is a key of C, so again, I'm doing it in C. You hear it done in all sorts of keys, I'm sure. Or A minor, really, which is the relative minor of C. So my melody is quite simple. A to E, right? And if I'm on that A minor, if I can do, well, if you like more country music, Willie Nelson did a version of this. So he would do more the open position, I suppose. If you wanted to put up an octave, you could do it way up here. Or you could do it, There's a lot of different options. For now, we'll just put it there, that A to E in the melody. And then when I can put my bass line in there, and then my melody's going. That's the A section melody. So it does that twice, A, A, B, A, right? Hence the form name. Then we have this bridge. The chords have a couple of different charts that I was looking at here. This, I don't know. I'll put them up. I don't know if you can see that. That was off of, Muse score. But then the one in the real book is a little different as far as the changes. This one just goes, and yeah, really, if you're playing it, if you come across this on a gig, you may want to work it out if you're playing with a bass player and piano player, just so you're kind of playing the same thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but sometimes it can clash pretty bad if you're playing different stuff. So this paper one I have, it just stays on the C for the first part of the bridge, or it says C major 7. And that's just a straight, C, D, E, F, G, right? So pretty much up to scale. And then we go to an A flat. Or a G sharp, whatever you want to call it. And that they're saying that chord there is an F minor. So, and probably the reason they said it's a minor because it has that A flat in it. So, and it's just 2 beats on that. And then G back to C. So, C major, F minor to C, the C major for a whole bar. Then the other one I have has it going from C major to G sus4. It's probably not that much different if you think about a sus4 and on a G. It's just you're just adding a C. Is it? Well, it says plus a flat 9. Oh, okay, so that the flat 9 is the A flat or the G sharp. So yeah, that's one reason they do that, because it will clash. What we try to avoid is the half steps. You get the psycho sound. It is like we're in the middle of October here in Massachusetts, so we're getting close to Halloween. So let's back to Blue Skies. Bridge. Back to the A section. So that's really the whole song, you know. With probably more. Well, I'll put on some tracks and I'll show you how I would kind of maybe go about comping. And like I've said before, it can vary quite a bit of, you know, who is in the band, the feel of the song. You know, we would do it as a ballad. We might want to do it more upbeat if people are dancing and stuff. So it's one of those tunes you could do it however you wanted to, really. And to go online and listen to some different versions. You know, I'm sure if you type in Blue Skies, you know, you'll find tons of versions, and hopefully really soon I'm going to be recording some of these public domain standards. Maybe I'll wait till after the first, because there's a couple of really good ones that come up after January 1st of this year. I guess I could pre-record them and just release it after the new year. Because this coming year, 2026, the public domain songs from 1930 and prior will be up for grabs. So. And if you have suggestions anytime on the website or songs that you would like to hear, or if you want to come on as a guest, just feel free to contact me. My contact is there. It's eddysmusicco@gmail.com. You can find me from the Jazz Chat. It will direct you to a link. So let's give that a try with some tracks, and I'll do a little bit of the melody, and then I'll do some comping maybe. I didn't really program an intro in here for this, but I would just do like a 1-6-2-5 for this, you know, which would be. You know, that would be a safe intro. You know, you don't want to get too far out there, because especially if it's like an open jam session or something, and you're communicating to people you haven't really played with before. You just want to nail that downbeat, you know, so they know where. This particular, that way it has a count in, but we're going to come right in on top. And again, this program that I'm using here is called Band in a Box. I've used it for a while. It used to just be MIDI files, but I wouldn't really use it for anything. But now they're live musician tracks, so you get some really good sounds out of it. And it's great for practice, and I actually been using it for gigs lately too, just because, you know, restaurants can't really afford to have a whole band, nor is there room. And the people would rather hear, I think even if you're a great player, you know, and not that I am, but people don't want to just hear solo guitar for, you know, 3 or 4 hours. Maybe they do, but I think they would get a little tired of it. So with these programs, you know, I can, you know, have my own band, and I don't have to we'll have to buy the equipment, but I don't really have to pay them. Don't have to worry about them, not showing up or showing up too drunk or something. But anyway, Blue Skies, we're gonna like I said, I didn't put an intro. If I were gonna use it, I would put an intro, but this one comes right in on top, and it gives you like a count in, is what it does. So we'll see how this goes. That was Blue Skies. And I kind of played off the melody there or something, played it a little bit, and added some, took away some. It's not, it's not like a classical piece where you practice it, 1,000 times or whatever and play all the right notes. So I was a little, And let me see if I can take away those chords, and I could show you kind of what I would do as far as just playing chords on this. Mixer. All right, let me just check that. That's silence and the piano. All right, yeah, so now I just have bass and drums, and I'll play some chords with that and kind of show you some different options, and then maybe the way I've gone about practicing that stuff. So we'll do the same thing. I'm just gonna be doing a little more filling in this time because I I cut the piano out of it. All right, here we go. Just bass, drums, and me playing guitar. right. So yeah, there are a few things that were going on there. If I'm playing the melody, I might just add some double stops. And a good example of when I came back in on that bridge on the wrong note, so I just played it out. I just kind of improvised over that bridge rather than try to jump back in. So yeah, I think if you can learn, we all make mistakes, to make them in time, especially in jazz, I've mentioned a few times, it's like, when you're driving on the highway and you start drifting over a little bit, so you go ahead and hit your turn signal. That's kind of the way we play jazz, So yeah, I mean, I can play those plain old cowboy chords down there if I want to do like the Willie Nelson version, which is like, A in the bass, a G sharp in the bass, a G in the bass, an F sharp in the bass. And that, sometimes, you could call that an A minor with an F sharp in the bass, or you could also call it an F sharp minor 7th flat 5, or a half diminished, as some people used to call them. You don't hear that term so much anymore. It was like a diminished is a little round circle, and a round circle with a slash through it. It's a minor 7 flat 5. I was taught to call it a minor 7 flat 5 and not to use that symbol, but some people still do, or you see older music that has that symbol, and some people probably still do that. This is however you were taught. But a minor 7 flat 5 and a half diminished are the same thing. The root, the flat 3, the flat 5, and flat 7, as opposed to a diminished 7th would have a double flat 7. A diminished 7 would so there is a difference. There's a difference between a minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished and a full diminished, and that's the 7th is flattened twice. And I talked about diminished is all minor thirds. So any note could be the root because it's symmetric in that way. And the minor 7 flat 5, without the 7th, it is a diminished. So a diminished triad works there too, as long as you have one of those notes being the chord that you want, one of the notes of the chord. So. But in this particular song, we want that descending bass line is really all we're going for. If you have a bass player, the bass player is going to do that. They're going to do that. So you don't have to even worry about that. You can. So yeah, that shape I use a lot, and that's back to we could call that the Stairway to Heaven chord, right? Yeah, I don't think names of chords are copywritten. No, they're not. That's a demolished chord. So I have that A, and it's going to a G sharp, and then to a G, and then to an F sharp. So, and I'm just flattening the notes are C, E, and A. It's the 5th fret. I'll flatten the high 3 strings, so I get that. And that's my A minor. And then the 1-6-2-5. A couple of times I did it like that's the one, when you first learn bar chords, that C. And if I want to go to an A7 from that C, I would, rather than go all the way up there or all the way down here or all the way up there, what I do, and because a lot of times these 1-6-2-5s are going super fast. If you play in bebop or something, those Parker tunes, they're going so fast. don't have time to be moving. But it sounds better too. Piano players talk about voice leading, or if you've studied a little bit of arranging, you keep your common tones and then you try to move by a half step or so I can keep those notes right there. And I'll just bring this over and then I put that C sharp in there for the A7. I mean, if it's an A minor, I can just move the root, right? This one calls for A7 with a flat 9, which is that melody note. And that, I generally do that D minor 7th. Where that comes from, and then see how easily that goes to the G7. So I got, that's my 1-6-2-5. Da, da. So regular old C. I can just bring the root over if it's an A minor. My D minor is this shape. I'm doing. If you think about, if you know that C and you know that C7. Only thing we have to do to make it a minor 7th is to flatten the 3rd, which is this finger. So I just flatten that first finger, and that's the D minor 7th. So, I mean, I'm just showing you from C because there's no sharps or flats in C. You can understand it. So, for a D minor 7th, I need a D, F, A, and a C. That's like my report card. No, it wasn't that bad. Hopefully the A was in music. So D, F, A, and C, and then the G7, I can fall right into that. I can keep that finger down. This can stay. I just got to move it up to grab the root, and this I'm going to switch to here. And that's the general G7 that most people learn. So practice those in all 12 keys. The 165. I'm just looking at my counter. I'm down to just about, 20 seconds. So I thank you so much for watching. JazzChat.org. Get in touch. Suggestions. If you want to be on my show. Thank you. Have a good day.